Andrew Ryan's desk, ink on objectivist vows, Booker's shadow on lighthouse steps, Sophia's hymn in Persephone's blood, three truths, Eleanor's rebellion, weaponized trauma, the lighthouse not a beacon but a skull. Sisters were not Eleanor Lamb's weapons, rebellion but rebellion, weaponized puppets. Two lies, one of lighthouse end, not a defiance, one of control. Rapture's end was not collapse but a scream translated into war. What if the big sisters weren't weapons but unwilling test subjects? Eleanor Lamb's bond with Subject Delta was not a rebellion, it was a prototype. Sentinel not by choice but by Booker's shadow, surgical erosion of self, rewired it. The sisters' defiance was choreographed rage, their loyalty not to a cause but to a conditioning. Eleanor did not fight the warden, she became the warden. Her war was psychological, her weapon the trauma of abandonment, turned back on its architects. The elite who weaponized children learned too late. The experiment had a subject and an object. Both were Eleanor. The big sisterhood was never about power. It was about proving power could be stolen, reimagined, worn like a second skin. What does it mean when the victim becomes the method? Her hatred of Ryan was precise. His godless self-reliance turned people into pawns. Her hatred of Sophia was visceral. Love in her mother's hands was a leash. Eleanor did not rebel. She weaponized the wound. The big sisters were not soldiers. They were proof of a theory. Trauma, when sculpted, becomes a language. Little sisters were not resources to harvest. They were vessels to break and remake. Eleanor's experiment was not in power, it was in persuasion. The hiss of a wrench, the glow of a suit's neon, the whispered help methes were not commands, they were triggers. A psychological war waged in the spaces between fear and loyalty. Ryan and Sophia built empires on ideas. Eleanor built hers in the marrow of their failures. Her sisters were not born of rage, they were born of understanding. What happens when the child of two gods learns to wear their sins as armor? The answer drowned Rapture. Rapture's blood curdled in 1958. Splicers tore through streets, not as mindless hordes, but as fractured echoes of a city that had abandoned its own. Andrew Ryan's objectivism, that shrine to self-worship, became a noose. Eleanor saw this not as failure but fuel. She did not rebel against Rapture, dissected its rage, distilled its venom, and injected it into the veins of children. The Civil War's chaos was her forge. Splicer violence, once a symptom of Rapture's rot, became her blueprint. She walked among the broken, not as a savior but as a surgeon, selecting those whose trauma could be *sharpened*. The Big Sister program was no weapon, it was a mirror. Each girl bathed in atom fire became a monument to Rapture's sins, their screams, a language only the elite could translate. Ryan had built a city on the lie that men need not depend on one another. Eleanor proved dependence could be a shackle. She taught her sisters to crave the pain of others, to savor the moment a man's pride crumbled beneath his own hubris. Where splicers gnawed at Rapture's bones, Eleanor feasted on its soul. Was this rebellion? No, it was arithmetic. For every father who drowned his daughter in Adam to claim power, a big sister learned to drown him in return. For every mother sold to the markets, a child learned to sell vengeance instead. Eleanor did not fight Rapture's system, she became its final, perfect expression. A child of objectivism, yes, but one who understood that self-reliance crumbles when the self is a weapon. The war she waged was not in bullets or blood. It was in the spaces between choices. She did not destroy Rapture. She made it *witness* itself, and in that witness the city found its end. The safe house hummed with stolen light. Eleanor stood between two deaths, the girl shed been, the monster shed become. She did not kill the first little sister. She unmade her. A whisper now, can you hear it? The sound of a mind folding inward, a soul pressed flat like parchment. Eleanor did not take, she replaced *. Every breath of that girl became a weapon, a memory of drowning, a hunger for vengeance. The big sisters were never meant to harvest, they were meant to haunt *. Rapture's elite built their towers to escape the sea. Eleanor built hers in the marrow of their fear. A little sister weeping in an atrium, and a CEO would bargain his soul to silence her. A child singing in a spa, and a socialite would sell her family to make it stop. Eleanor's army was not steel or fire. It was the weight of guilt, the shape of shame. She chose the safe house because it was clean. No bloodstains, no sirens, just walls that held the shape of a choice. Did she weep when the first little sister opened her eyes and saw only Eleanor's face? No, she calculated how many hearts could break before the city broke. How many children could scream before the adults forgot their own names? The war was not in the attacks, it was in the waiting. A big sister materializing in a doorway, and a man would clutch his chest, not from fear but from remembering the face of someone had abandoned. Eleanor did not conquer Rapture. She let it rot from within Every little sister was a mirror, every scream a verdict, 3 years, 7,000 souls. The big sisterhood was not a rebellion, it was a confession. Rapture's sin amplified until the city could no longer drown it out. The voice drops, the whisper lingers. Eleanor Lamb did not destroy Rapture, she made it witness itself. And in that witness, the city found its end. Voice sharpens, the cold floors still echo with their dragging boots. Eleanor's sisters didn't storm the spire, they seeped into it, whisper thin and ravenous, turning privilege into paranoia. A sister's breath fogs in the anteroom, her eyes hollow as frozen lakes. They weren't meant to conquer, they were meant to unmake. The city's elite didn't die in fire. They dissolved in the mirror of their own cruelty, gasping as the experiment's true design surfaced, not control but annihilation. The little sisters bled in silence. Their bodies, hollowed by spliced genes, became vessels for stolen tetrodotic sin. Each harvest left them smaller, frailer, their eyes wide with the knowledge of what they were to the fathers who once cradled them. Eleanor's program did not spare them, it perfected their exploitation. The big daddies, those hulking echoes of paternal duty, dragged them through Rapture's ruins like groomsmen escorting corpses, their oxygen masks fogged with memories of being men. Eleanor's war was not against the elite, it was in their bones. She weaponized the machinery of their own undoing. The big daddies were fathers, providersuntal, their lungs collapsed into chemical honey. The little sisters were daughters forced to the empire that had no womb. Every harvested sister was a mirror held to the elite's hypocrisy, their utopia built on infantile labor. The cost was not in blood, it was in becoming. Eleanor did not reprogrammed. Her big sisters were not weapons but woundings, living testaments to how trauma could be sculpted into power. The elite drowned in fire, no, they dissolved in the mirror of their cruelty, gasping as the experiment's true design surfaced, not control but annihilation. Eleanor didn't just twist their minds, weaponized their brokenness. The little sisters weren't saved, they were sculpted, each child a mirror, each scream a lesson. The lighthouse's glow wasn't guidance. It was a mark, a brand, a promise. Plasmids didn't grant power, they sold dependency. Vigors didn't liberate, they chained. Eleanor saw the elite's hunger and gave them a paradox, self-destruction disguised as ascension. Her sisters weren't born, they were forged in the molten core of Rapture's failures. What if the big sisters weren't weapons but a mind control experiment? Eleanor's war wasn't against flesh, it was against thought. Every child she claimed became a predator, not by force but by familiarity. The sisterhood was a virus, a whisper in the dark. This is safety, this is love. The lighthouse stood as her cathedral, its spire a dagger piercing Rapture's lies. Here trauma was the sacrament, here pain was the doctrine. Elizabeth's death wasn't an accident, it was the final thread. Her escape shattered, her fate woven into BSI's design. Eleanor didn't mourn. She refined, Elizabeth's loss became the blueprint. The elite didn't die by fire or flood, they drowned in their own reflections, gasping as the sisters they dismissed now stalked their halls. Eleanor's war had no flags, no armies, only the slow erosion of the soul. A child becomes a monster not by choice but by design. The big sisters weren't rebels. They were the reckoning, the cost of a world that traded truth for transcendence. Rapture's end wasn't a collapse, it was a confession, and Eleanor's voice still echoes in the dark. A sister's whisper, a warning. Eleanor's program outlived Rapture. BSI files whisper of its blueprint, trauma weaponized, not rebelled. The big sisters were not weapons, they were vectors, hosts for a mind control experiment that reshaped Rapture's soul. Her voice still hums in the Ludes twins' equations. Dimensional physics, fractured timelines, they built bridges between worlds, yet Eleanor's war unfolded in the same space, a war of perception. Of making the powerful feel broken. Every little sister's abduction was a mirror, every attack a demand. See yourself as I see you. Rapture's collapse was not chaos. It was a fracture in the psyche of a civilization. Andrew Ryan fell not to bullets but to the weight of his own reflection, endlessly repeated in 1,000 little sisters' eyes. Eleanor's victory was not in destruction. It was in the silence afterward, the hollow where confidence once lived. The Ludes twins' theories explain the asterisk how asterisk. Eleanor's war explains the asterisk why asterisk. A shadow that does not dissipate. BSI still classifies her notes. They whisper of a program that never indefinitely adapted. A sister's whisper, a warning. Sisters do not march, they drown. Eleanor Lamb's war was not in the streets but in the silent chambers where trauma becomes a script. Ryan and Fontaine burned, Comstock and Daisy preached. Eleanor Lamb asterisk harvested asterisk. Her baptism wasn't a redemption, it was a reprogramming. Infinite's waters did not erase Cynthia erased self. Each little sister's song was a trigger, a key to lock the drowned in their loops. Rapture's elite did not die to rebellion, they died to the weight of their own mirrored gazes. What if the big sisters were not weapons but surgeons, precision blades cutting out hope, replacing it with the numb geometry of compliance? Eleanor did not rebel against Rapture's rot. She became its architect. Her sisterhood was no uprising, it was a slow-burn siege on the soul. She weaponized her own fractured mind. A girl erased, a girl returned not to reclaim but to recalibrate. Where others fought with fire or faith, Eleanor fought with silence. The kind that grows between a victim and their shadow when the shadow is all that remains. Rapture's Atlas and Columbia's Daisy built on defiance. Eleanor Lamb built on symmetry. A city's sins mirrored in a sister's eyes. A war waged not with fists but with the quiet erosion of asterisk choice asterisk. BSI still classifies her files. They do not ask why the drowned never scream. They do not wonder if the silence is the victory. The drowned never scream. BSI files classify but do not comprehend. Eleanor Lamb did not wield the big sisters. She became their architect, not rebellion, a scalpel. Trauma was her syntax, terror her lexicon. Each sister a node in a neural network of vengeance. Each splicer a subject in her living experiment. The baths were not baptism, they were reprogramming. A deluge to erase the old self birthed the new. Her voice, that hollow melody, was no weapon, it was the trigger. A neurochemical puppetry. They think she fought the Waylands. They think she fought anything. She fought perception itself, a world remade in her image, not through force, through fractured minds that could not unsee. The sisters did not kill, they unmade. A silent war of rewired loyalties, of eyes that saw only her. The final subject was always herself, a girl who drowned to rise as the flood. The silence in the baths was not defeat, it was the hum of a system running perfectly. Her program never failed, it only adapted. Even now in the dark the sisters sing. And Eleanor's voice, steady and broken, echoes in their heads. I will make them see the world as I do. What if Eleanor's voice wasn't a scream into the dark but a key? The Ludes twins wove dimensional threads through Rapture's bones. What if their equations weren't tools for escape but the scaffolding of her prison? Each big sister carried a fracture in reality's skin, a whisper between worlds. Eleanor didn't rebel. She rewired trauma into a language only Rapture's architects could hear. And the Ludes twins, what if their final